Have you ever felt like your mind itself was a burden? Not because you were wrong, but because you saw too much? Didn't offend anyone? You weren't arrogant? You simply existed with an acute awareness, and somehow that was enough to unsettle people. Sharper your insight, the colder the room became. Not through hostility, but with quiet punishments, subtle exclusion, lingering silences, jokes that cut deeper than they appeared, or vanished opportunities with no explanation. You blamed yourself. You wondered if you were too intense, too serious, too complex. But it wasn't your character that alienated people. It was your clarity. You perceived reality with such sharpness that it unsettled those who preferred the comfort of illusion. You didn't expose their flaws out loud, yet they felt exposed. You saw through masks they didn't even know they were wearing. Schopenhauer didn't think this was coincidence. He believed it was a pattern. Society doesn't merely ignore intelligence, it quietly disciplines it. Not through violence, but through social exile. Because, at its core, most people don't seek truth. They seek comfort. And when your awareness disturbs their peace, you're not thanked. You're cast out. The punishment isn't overt. It doesn't come with laws or fists. It comes in the form of eyes that look past you, conversations that lose their energy when you speak, or jobs you didn't get. Not due to incompetence, but because your presence unsettled someone who wanted. To feel superior, no one says it aloud, but you start to realize deep thinking carries a cost. That cost is belonging. You weren't excluded because you were unkind. You were excluded because you were uncommon. Your questions made others uncomfortable. Your insights disturbed their illusions. Your sense of humor lacked triviality, so it fell flat. You were labeled too much, too intense, hard to relate to. Not because you were flawed, but because you reflected what others tried to avoid. You weren't a participant, you were a mirror. And few people enjoy being mirrored in their rawest form. This is the unspoken cost of intelligence, the invisible tax of seeing clearly. It's not hatred you face, it's evasion. You're bypassed, not attacked. Smiled at, but not embraced. Spoken around, not to at first. You think it's you, so you try to adapt. You dim your light. You lighten your tone. You pretend to enjoy the shallow. But each time you shrink yourself to fit in, you lose something essential. Because intelligence isn't arrogance, it's awareness. And once your perception expands, there's no going back. You notice everything. You pick up on tension, subtext, contradiction. You feel the shift in a room when you walk in fully present. You didn't say a word, yet people become uneasy. They fidget, they talk more or too loud. They avert their eyes or glance too often at their phones. You didn't provoke anything. You simply existed, and that was enough. Psychologists call this the mirror effect, when your presence reflects back what others don't want to see in themselves. You didn't challenge their identity directly, but you're being questioned. Their comfort, your curiosity highlighted their complacency. Your emotional discipline made their insecurity obvious. Most aren't ready for that kind of reflection, so they label you cold, arrogant, detached. What they're really saying is, you make me see what I'd rather ignore. Even your silence is misinterpreted. You're not judging, you're observing. But people project judgment onto presence when that presence sees too clearly. The average ego can't tolerate such exposure, and resentment builds, not loud but steady. Friends drift. Colleagues compete. Family members dismiss your thoughts as impractical. You're not punished for being wrong. You're punished for seeing what others cannot. Schopenhauer called this a heightened consciousness trapped in a sleeping world. And the more awake you are, the more your very presence becomes unsettling. It's not because you shout, but because you reflect. You hold a mirror no one can ignore. We were not born into a system designed for truth. It was built for survival. For most of history, survival depended not on intelligence, but on group acceptance. Rejection once meant death. Our ancestors evolved a brain wired for conformity, prioritized belonging, suppressed dissent. That ancient wiring still governs modern interactions. Even now, your intelligence feels like a threat, not because it is harmful, but because it breaks the social script. When you raise deep questions or present complex truths, it doesn't matter if you're right. It matters if you disturb the harmony. The tribal brain doesn't differentiate between truth and disruption. It treats both as danger. That's why society has built-in mechanisms to reject independent thought. It's not logic that dictates. This rejection, it's the amygdala, the part of the brain that processes fear. When people feel intellectually outpaced, their fear center activates. You didn't just challenge their ideas, you triggered their survival instincts. They pulled away not because you're unlikable, but because you awakened something uncomfortable. You didn't violate the rules. You revealed that the rules were hollow. And nothing is more threatening to a group than someone who sees through its myths. That's why the intelligent often end up on the outskirts, not due to antisocial tendencies, but because their minds are incompatible with the tribal mechanics of belonging. Schopenhauer saw this clearly. The more you understand, the harder it becomes to participate. Not because you're proud, but because awareness is alienating. And even the brightest mind is punished by society's primitive need to maintain cohesion. Our systems, schools, workplaces, governments are not designed to nurture intelligence. They're designed to regulate it. Education doesn't reward inquiry, it rewards obedience. We're told to memorize, not question, to repeat, not reimagine. The students who ask why too often are labeled disruptive. The ones who challenge the textbook are told to stay on topic. Creativity is a distraction. Depth is a liability. Schools produce employees, not philosophers. Then you enter the workforce, and it gets worse. You hope your innovation will be appreciated. Instead, you find that real insight is threatening. The agreeable are promoted. The critical thinkers are advised to tone it down. You're told to be a team player, not because you're wrong, but because you're uncomfortable to be around. Companies often value conformity over intelligence, safety over truth. Politics, even more so, charisma trumps nuance. Certainty is more electable than honesty. Those who question the system are labeled radicals. Those who play along are crowned leaders. Truth doesn't win votes, comfort does. Intelligence is tolerated only if it's diluted, repackaged, made palatable. This is what Schopenhauer warned us about. Institutions don't serve truth, they serve survival. And when your intelligence threatens that survival, it gets reshaped or silenced, not by force, but by bureaucracy, by rejection, by slow emotional erosion until you either break or disappear. At the heart of Schopenhauer's philosophy is the concept of the will, not willpower, but a blind, irrational force driving life. It propels people toward pleasure, comfort, and reproduction. Let's follow it blindly, chasing careers, partners, goals without introspection. But the intelligent are cursed with the will to truth. They don't just exist, they observe. They ask why. They question suffering, illusion, and hypocrisy. At each answer, they drift further from the world, because to awaken is to grieve. You see too much. You feel the emptiness behind. Ambition, the fraudulence of tradition, the shallowness of mass culture. What excites others exhausts you. What they call success, you see as surrender. Parties feel vacant. Small talk feels suffocating. Joy becomes elusive. You cannot unsee what you've seen. This is why society punishes intelligence, not with violence, but with quiet erasure, because the clear-sighted don't blend in. They disrupt. Their very being whispers. Something is false here. And that whisper is unbearable in a world addicted to distraction, so they are pushed out. Not by decree, but by exhaustion. The will to truth isolates you. It dismantles your ability to pretend. You're left with a choice. Go numb and rejoin the herd, or keep walking. Knowing clarity may cost you every conventional comfort. Schopenhauer's answer? Keep walking. Let the world sleep. Let them have their illusions. You must see, even if it breaks you. Because the only life worth living is one grounded in truth. Maybe you've spent years wondering what's wrong. With you, why you feel so different. Why shallow conversation drains you. Why connection feels so rare. You've been told you're too sensitive, too too serious, too much. But you are not broken. You are just ahead of your time. Your intelligence didn't isolate you. It revealed you. It stripped away illusions that others still need. And once you saw through them, you couldn't unsee. That's why noise overwhelms you. That's why silence soothes you. You were built for depth, and the world is addicted to distraction. You feel alien not because you're lacking, but because you perceive too deeply. In a society wired for comfort, clarity feels like a curse. But you are not alone in that burden. History is filled with those who saw too far too soon. Socrates was executed for his questions. Tesla died in obscurity. Turing was destroyed by the system he helped save. Hypatia was murdered for teaching logic. They weren't honored. They were erased. It's not because they were wrong, but because they were right before the world was ready. And maybe so are you. You are not too much. You are necessary. You are not broken. You are the frontier. The discomfort you cause is not a flaw, it's a spark. Every age needs minds that challenge it. And while you may not be celebrated now, your mind may be the one that shifts the future. And though the world may try to erase you in life, it will quote you in death.